Nothing in this podcast is intended as investment advice, and the people in this podcast may hold positions in the stocks they talk about. Do not buy any investment based solely on a tip or recommendation. Please do your own research.
Hello and welcome to the Sunday Roast. It's Sunday the 14th of July. I'm Phil Carroll.
And I'm Kevin Hornsby.
Well, Kev. Did you expect England in the final of Euro 2020?
Come on, England!
I think we kind of did. If you listened to last week's show, I think we pretty much got all the predictions right, didn't we? Spain beating Germany.
Did we say England-Spain final or not? I don't remember.
No, but I think if you remember, I said we'd beat the Swiss to go through. I think we pretty much said Spain beating Germany, and then obviously France beating Portugal, and then I obviously said we would get past Switzerland, and then obviously we faced Holland, who beat Turkey in the quarters as well. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on the Holland game? It's probably the first time we've actually seen England play any football in the tournament, really, isn't it?
No, I think we played very well. We got lucky with the penalty, I think, but we played very well. We deserved to win, I think. No matter the controversy with that, and what a goal from Watkins. I mean,
yeah, and it was funny because
screaming, "Get Kane off, get Watkins or Tony on," and then he finally did it, and boom.
Yeah, he's had a lot of stick, hasn't he, get Southgate, from the way he's played it or not played it, from press, from armchair experts, whoever it be, and saying, he's not made the right tactical decisions. But certainly that the double sub he made towards the, 75th minute or whatever it was, it paid off. And as you say, Watkins came on, and Palmer made a big difference when he came on as well. So, I mean, you must have been watching it delayed. You were like, it's going to, extra time. And I was like, Watkins sent you the message, and you were like, wow.
If he wins this, he's the best. He's got to be.
He just added to his value there from that goal. 20 million?
Yes, but I don't think they're going to be selling them anyway, so that really matters. But no, I'm talking about Southgate. I think the scenario with him being criticised all the time about being the manager, a poor England manager, he will go down. If he wins this, he will go down in history as the best English manager we've ever had.
But I think he already.
The problem is
he's already taken them through to two finals and semis. So like, if they make this, they'll be making history as being the first England team to win on foreign shores, won't they? So no one else. I mean, but they've already made history in the premise that they've been to a final on a foreign.
Absolutely.
So,
and at the end of the day, Southgate at least can remember people's names, unlike somebody else that we saw on Thursday night. Just like to introduce President of Ukraine, Mr. Putin. Is that Freudian or what?
But then it's the way he came back with the apology, and he went, no, I'm spending so much time fighting Putin that he's on my brain, he's on my mind. It was unbelievable. But
and then somebody asked him the Trump question about Trump and Harris, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Kamala Harris, and he used Trump instead of Kamala Harris as the name. It was just like unbelievable. So I cannot believe he will survive those two faux pas.
Yeah, but you say that, but he's vehement that he's not going to resign. He's not going to step down, and I mean, he's not even the candidate, as we've alluded to yet. That'll be the decision will be made. But ultimately, is he the best that the Democrats have got? I don't know. I mean, I think Kamala Harris probably is going to be a better choice right now, because I think he's just shot himself in the foot there, hasn't he? But
I think Trump would probably wipe the floor with Kamala Harris.
Yeah,
but he's going to wipe the floor with Biden, anyway, because Biden cannot protect himself, basically. He's going to make faux pas after faux pas. So.
Yeah. Did you see Keir Starmer getting his miles in? First to Edinburgh on the first leg of his 2-day trip to Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. That was on Sunday. Obviously, Labour won a majority in Scotland as well as England and Wales in a general election that propelled the party to power for the first time since 2010. Where else did he visit, Kev?
No idea.
I mean, but he went to the US, obviously, where he met Joe Biden. As you say, I'm surprised Biden could even remember his name. I'm surprised he didn't call him Sunak, based on the premise that he's obviously Starmer's new to power. He attended a NATO summit on the 75th anniversary of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and the pair also had private talks in the Oval Office. And Joe Biden said, "Give me a hand, pal," the Labour leader, on his first overseas visit as Prime Minister. And he's got a season ticket as Arsenal Football Club, and he gave Biden a personalised team shirt as a present. I bet he loved that, Kev.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Why wouldn't you want an Arsenal shirt? Excuse my French.
So what do you make of his appointments? Have you seen much of what Starmer's building his cabinet? You've got Rachel Reeves as obviously his Chancellor. That no real surprises there. You've got Yvette Cooper, Home Secretary. And then I think the main one that was interesting was James Timpson is the Minister for Prison, Parole and Probation. James Timpson, obviously, of the high street shop, the key cutting service, shoe repairs, very prevalent on X, is always tweeting or posting on there. I think his experience of he used to work in the prison environments should be a very good one when the prisons are overrun and we've got they're at capacity. So
what, is he gonna cut some keys and let them all out? I don't know, but it seems like, what was that statement? A third of prisoners should be there. Yeah. A third should be rehabilitated and got out of there, and a third basically shouldn't be there.
Yeah,
because they're there for reasons that, unfortunate circumstances or whatever, and actually it's not going to be helping them go to prison.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we're going to have a rethink about all of this. I mean, in the US, they've gone mental on prisons and actually just build more and more and more, make them private, and it's like a money-making racket, and get as many people in there as possible. Yeah. But this isn't the way that we should have a modern society or run a modern society. So I hope he does use some common sense. So, yeah.
The other thing is mortgage price war heating up. Obviously, interest rates heading below 4% this year. We've seen the S&P 500. We've seen the NASDAQ at all-time highs. What do you make on the way things are moving in the US, as well as obviously the way things are moving in terms of FTSE in the UK?
Yeah, we seem to be having a bit of a blow-off top in the US, don't we? It's going a bit
all-time highs.
Nuts. All-time highs, keeping on going. And at the same time, we've got gold sparking back up again. So what does that tell you? Like, gold is a safe haven, and yet stock markets are all-time high. So I think we're in for some fun, to be honest with you. I think we're going to I personally think we're going to have a sell-off in the US, and that's going to allow a lot of stock and a lot of cash to move down the pyramid and start to look for value. Boy, there's a lot of value in that in our markets. So let's hope some of that cash finds its way across. Let's see.
So we also had some late-breaking news on Saturday night from Pennsylvania. So Donald Trump has returned to his New Jersey home after being shot in an assassination attempt at a Pennsylvania rally, where shots caused panic as Secret Service agents swarmed him. Trump, who was injured in the ear, described hearing a whizzing sound. The FBI identified the gunman as a 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks, who was killed by the Secret Service. One spectator was killed and 2 others were critically injured. Witnesses reported seeing a man with a rifle on a roof before the shooting. President Joe Biden condemned the violence, urging Americans to denounce such actions. Video shows Trump dropping to the ground before standing and raising his fist to the crowd. So just how important is this, Kev? I mean, obviously, we've talked about Biden and potentially, usurping his own presidential campaign, but just how much does this kind of give Trump some leverage now?
Well, it does, but I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's not a surprise, probably, with all the rhetoric that's been going on from both sides. And, Biden did basically say it's time to forget about the debate and go for the bullseye. So there's been some language used on probably both sides that is not very clever. Yeah, 132 meters away, sniper. Like, how did he not take him out? Is really the thought in my mind. It's unbelievable that from that sort of distance.
I saw that, and to be honest, from what I can see from the news reports overnight, it was actually an M16 rapid fire machine gun, so it wasn't an actual sniper's rifle. It was a quick fire, so the likelihood of him actually hitting him at that range, is probably much lesser with something like an assault rifle. So in machine gun, there was a lot of very high pitched whizzing sounds, and you say it was a rapid fire. So, obviously we saw one of them, Trump was there, wasn't he, with his fist in the air with blood running down his face. There was a lot of spectators in the crowd who'd obviously unfortunately been hit, and obviously 2 of them were critically injured. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to put any conspiracy theories in and say, that was it, how did he survive and everything, because it's not worth it when people have perished in it. But what do you think?
I didn't realize that it wasn't a rifle as such, because the rifle from that range is like picking off a watermelon basically, and it would be very easy, I would imagine. But anyway, that aside, we feel for the people who have perished, who've died, and the critically ill people. We hope they're going to recover. But like, this is going to change, one, the electoral race completely, and secondly, how's this going to put America in the view of the rest of the world? Some serious changes, I believe, in terms of how this race is run.
I mean, it's as if it wasn't divided enough. They have something like this, which is obviously going to put a massive divide between the Republicans and the Democrats. So there's already a massive outpouring of obviously anger on X, hundreds of posts and videos of people ranting about this, obviously blaming each side, blaming each other for it. But what about the wider markets? We talked about potential for other foreign currencies potentially to do well. Moving to safe haven, maybe the Swiss franc, the Japanese yen. How's it going to affect the dollar? Do you think going forward?
Well, as we've said on this program many times before, we think the dollar is overvalued anyway, and in now the former democracy that was the USA, which basically is what it looks like is happening. How can the dollar maintain its grip on this situation? And certainly there's going to be a flight to quality. I don't care what anybody says. If we don't see gold going up, I'll be shocked. And all the metals, basically, whether it be gold, whether it be silver, whether it probably be copper, whether it be any of them, these are going to be flight to assets that make sense in times like this. Yeah, and political opponents, as in political opponents of countries around the world, what would you do? You're going to probably take advantage of this. How can you take advantage of this? Well, you can weaken the US economically even more. So let's see what happens. I think we're going to be in for some turbulence. And it also says that a lot of the resource plays and the resource things that we certainly talk about should do very well out of this extremely sad and unfortunate situation.
Yeah, I mean, obviously at the top of the show we talked about the fact that Biden, with the sort of, you almost alluded to them as Freudian slips, references to Putin rather than Zelensky. If he hadn't shot himself in the foot. But how much do you think this alters the campaign for presidency? Do you think that obviously there's going to be a lot of outpouring of sympathy for Trump? You've seen the fist in the. I mean, could you get a more iconic photo of Trump there with his fist in the? I mean, it's almost like a campaign poster, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, their whole campaign was attack Trump. No, it wasn't Biden's good. It was let's attack Trump. Now, every time you attack Trump from this point on, you're going to be scoring own goals. So now it's going to have to change from the Democratic Party pulled all their advertisements slating Trump from shortly after it happened. So, they're going to have to rethink completely. And Trump is going to be not hailed a hero, but I mean, he's got political capital from this, hasn't he? And it's like one of those things. Okay, he hasn't died, but it's shocking. It's like, where were you when Princess Diana died?
Yeah.
Where were you when somebody hit the Twin Towers?
Yeah.
It is one of those events in my view. I mean,
it's pivotal, and it's almost like, as you say, it's like martyrdom, but without the martyr itself. He's a survivor, and he's gonna go on and flourish for sure.
Well, there has been a martyr, hasn't there? So somebody has been killed. So that person is going to be not used, but it's like, holy moly, that could have been Trump, and anyone who comes out and says it should have been Trump or whatever is going to be scoring so many own goals for the Democratic Party that it's just not true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, we'll carry on with the Sunday roast now, but it's a bit of a shocking event all in all.
We can move on to our first guest this week, Rupert Vercoe, CEO, and David Clark, Director and Geologist at Cobra Resources. The ticker is COBR, and they're an exploration company focused on reducing the cost of critical rare earth production at the Bolan project in southern Australia. Welcome, gents.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Hi, Evan.
Yeah, so obviously just this week that we saw the company report positive preliminary metallurgical results from ongoing in situ recovery bench scale testing, ISR, a low capital, low disturbance mining process with low environmental risk, has shown strong ionic recoveries of 41% from a high-grade sample and low impurities. The Australian National Scientific and Technological Organisation, ANSTO, is conducting mineral recovery trials demonstrating low acid consumption and cost-effective recovery pathways. You highlighted, Rupert, the potential for optimizing recoveries and the company's commitment to cost-effective, environmentally responsible rare earth production. Further MET results are anticipated in the coming weeks. So is it another validation, perhaps, that ISR process will prove successful at Boland, Rupert?
Yeah, sure. We're really excited and very encouraged about these results. What they're showing for us, and I think what's important for investors and shareholders to note, is that rare earth metallurgy is a function not just of recovery, it's also of levels of impurity and the acid consumption. They're your two biggest cost drivers that make the processing steps more challenging. And these results have shown exceptionally low impurities. We have 13 times more rare earths in solution than what we do aluminium, which is one of your major impurities that you have to manage. We have low radioactive elements, so we won't have much of an issue there based on this test work. And our acid consumption over extended periods, our total acid consumption is 8.8 kilograms per tonne. So if we put that into context of cost, that's around £1. So that is a huge tick for us to be able to optimise this testing and this test work going forwards to focus on increasing those recoveries.
Absolutely. So, David, just tell us how enthused you are about these results you've seen.
Phil, I think this work is past the critical point. I think that's actually already behind us. Rupert has been successful in both the concept and now in the demonstration that the recovery is going to be successful so the process can be cost effective, and he'll be moving on to demonstrate scale. He's already got a lot in his back pocket there with analyses from drill holes over something like 150 square kilometres. And even though that's not reportable as a resource, it's a wonderful guide to widespread mineralisation of this style and shallow depths within the same stratigraphy. So I'm very enthusiastic about it. I think it's a wonderful project.
What's your background, David, in terms of this whole project and how it came about?
Thanks, Kevin. I'm a very old geologist, and I was lucky enough in 1969 to drill the discovery hole at the Beverly Uranium Project. So I had a bit of an exposure to in-situ recoveries. That became the first in-situ recovery project in Australia. Up until then, it had only been used in Wyoming, and I think it was being used in Kazakhstan at the time in the late 1960s. And I'm way behind the times now because people like Rupert and Rob Blythman, our exploration manager, had both spent years on current day operations at the PREM and Bayman. So they're right up to speed with it, whereas I'm a bit of history in that respect. But the fundamentals don't change. The geology looks perfect for this style of recovery, and the levels of impurity, the exceptional levels of impurity that Rup's current work shows, are really very exciting. It's wonderful to be involved.
So, David, after your most recent purchase that's just been announced on the London Stock Exchange, you now have 9.5% of Cobra Resources.
Why are you so heavily invested in this particular stuff?
I've been keen to get to the point where we got another announcement out, and so that I was free to top up a few more shares, and I was very surprised to buy them at a very attractive price. So sometimes life works well. It's a great project. We live in a difficult world these days, and rare earths are going to be a pretty important part of the future one way or another. It seems clear to me that this is the best rare earth exploration / development project in the world today. The market doesn't seem to have quite grasped that yet, but it's heavily geological, and I'm a geologist, so to me it looks obvious. It might take a little while for other people to come to the same conclusion, but it looks pretty straightforward and really based on the fact that the containing sands are so porous and permeable. We are able to get the lixiviant in and out again, so we can recover our rare earths quickly and easily, and as Rupert has been able to show, with low levels of impurity and with a potentially very low cost structure. A very, very attractive situation.
If I could step in and just maybe make a comment on one Metroix announcement during the week, which is their scoping study, which the market didn't think what some interesting takeaways were there is South American tax rate or the Brazilian tax rate and the high levels of royalties. And that has really impacted their financials. And also they have a CapEx cost of around 300 million. I think what's important from our standpoint is that, one, we have much more freeboard in terms of lower royalties. We also have a more competitive tax rate. And should we be successful in ISR, CapEx will be materially lower than that. Why are we confident in that? Well, it's really been demonstrated in the uranium industry. We believe that the CapEx for ionic rare earth through in situ recovery will be lower than that from a uranium standpoint, because they use large columns that are quite considerable infrastructure, IX columns, to use a density process. What we're exploring is membrane desorption. And with our low level of impurities, we're looking at a single-step impurity removal process. And because of that, we won't need a lot of infrastructure, and we can really scale operations as ISR to overcome some of those capital burdens. So I'm feeling fairly bullish based on what's been published by others that we can be very competitive in that sphere. So whilst we've got a lot of work to do to support that, we feel that really honing in on this metallurgy and demonstrating what our advantage is going to really resonate and highlight what the investment opportunity is at this project.
Rupert, just explain to people how much water is going to be required for this process and where you're going to get that water from.
You've got to remember, Kevin, that this mineralisation occurs within an aquifer. That aquifer is 2 times saltier than the sea, but it is your source of water to be able to mine your rare earths with. So you basically extract that water out, you precondition it, which may be removing some impurities initially. You drop the acidity and you inject it back in, and you work to drop the acidity of that aquifer, which then invokes that ion exchange. So we're exchanging a salt under those slightly acidic conditions. We're talking the acidity of a red wine. And when we liberate those rare earths, we bring them to surface and we run them through a very simplistic process for purification and precipitation. So look, what that means is we don't need a lot of external water. We have infrastructure and water nearby, and the South Australian government's actually committing a significant amount of capital to what's called the Northern Water Project, and that is it's an RO plant source water from the ocean, and they're looking at putting it up through the Eyre Peninsula to service a number of mines within the Gawler Craton. So that is going to be very valuable for us as an additional water source to help assist the processes. But effectively, we'd be using the water that's already in the ground as well.
So Rupert, give us an explanation with this graph that we have in front of us of the results yesterday, and compare it obviously to other companies, which I think is what we're trying to do.
Sure, Kevin. Look, I think for context, rare earth metallurgy is not just about the total recoverable quantity. It's about managing a balance between impurity levels and acid consumption. They're 2 huge factors that incur or increase the cost of processing. And the results yesterday for us, key takeaways, really low acid consumption and really low impurity levels. And our impurity levels greater than 10 times lower than other reported companies. And even the recoveries, in context, when we compare them to much more advanced projects, we have AR3 in Australia. I must point out, because I don't have it disclosed on this slide, but this is the resource grades of these companies, and these are their reported recoveries. AR3 is just reported recoveries from heap leach, and these other companies have a more standardized processing. And when you put head grades of this sample and recovery of that sample and the amount of those rare earths that are coming into solution, and this is for dysprosium and terbium, 2 of the most high value rare earths, what we're recovering is actually very good in benchmark compared to those other companies. And I think what's important, Kevin, is this is the test work we have advancing, which is demonstrating ISR. ISR is a much lower cost process of mining, and it gives us great optimality to further increase those recoveries. And so at the moment, we're trialling this by increasing that lower acidity for longer. And obviously, we'll be assessing what that does in terms of bringing our recoveries up, but what it does from an impurity perspective as well. So look, the results are very encouraging, and we look forward to being able to bring further results to market shortly.
And Rupert, what's the market cap of AR3, Aclara, and Meteoric Scoping?
Well, AR3's around $15 million Australian. Aclara has gone private, and Meteoric, after the back of their scoping study, has come back a bit, but is well over $230 million Aussie still. So it highlights the value of these assets, and I think the opportunity that we're really demonstrating is ISR has the ability to deliver really competitive economics and robust economics that potentially provides a more compelling investment case than a lot of these other projects.
Yeah, so in situ recovery is obviously going to make your overall cost structure significantly less, and therefore, even if the values were lower, your recoveries were low, which they're obviously not based on this, then it's going to be a very good play for economic recovery of these rare earths. So thanks.
Absolutely. And I think, Kevin, what's important to note is this subsample that we took had a grade of 2300 ppm TREO. The upside is the grade that it was of the sample that was taken from, which is in this photo, in this bench scale ISR test, that is over 4,500 ppm TREO. So the amount of rare earths that we get into solution from that grade is going to be significantly higher and really enable us to maximize that recovery without having to overcome impurity challenges. So really encouraging stuff that we're seeing out of this test work.
So the market's missed this completely, that it's flown by effectively. You've just announced this, and obviously, there has been a lot of results over the last few months that have pointed towards these type of recoveries, this situation. So what are the next steps ahead for Cobra Resources? And my second question, which you don't have to answer at the same time, but is what is happening to the gold project when we've just hit another all-time high and gone over $2,400 a US ounce for the gold?
Absolutely. So, look, at the moment, Kevin, I think what's important to note is we've increased our metallurgical scope. So we're encouraged enough by these results to really expand it to get the data that we require to support economic evaluation. We have the length of core under bench scale ISR conditions at present. What we've done on the back of these results is we've extended that test. So we know that the sample is not going to consume any more acid than what has already been consumed, but we believe we can increase recoveries by leaving that sample at the lower acidity for longer. So that just means more time, but we expect that those results will be to the market in the coming weeks. We've already commenced work for a second drill hole to be subject to this test work from the well field. And that's going to give us a great basis of evaluating some variability of recoveries to put some economic evaluation around how much of the rare earths within that well field is recoverable to take it towards a pilot study. What else is happening? Look, once we get all of these results, we'll be back into the field. I don't like to waste shareholders' money, so I want to have the best information at hand to go and target the areas with the best geology for ISR and the highest grade zones. And so as we analyse these MET results, we'll be refining our designs for that drill program to deliver a maiden resource. So that work's all very important. And going forwards, in terms of the gold project, we have a transaction underway that's subsequent as a result of the deal we did with Andromeda that is with the mining department at the moment, which will result in new tenements being granted. Once that process has been done, we will be evaluating a number of options on how to advance our gold assets. So we have shallow grade gold mineralisation, 279,000 ounce resource, and there are some opportunities that we can help, one, finance them to advance them, but also to look at toll treatment options and different options with neighbours to be able to advance it. So that's what we're working to. but an important step is getting the tenement numbers reissued on those gold assets. So plenty of work to do there, but agree that it's an exciting time in the gold market. What I think we should highlight to the market is we believe we can be the best and most cost-effective rare earth miner, and that's why we're focusing on that at present.
Yeah, and a market capitalization of sort of currently £7.5 million or thereabouts at a penny, I think. 279 ounces of gold at $100 an ounce in ground valuation would have £27.9 million US value, I think, and you could probably sell that easily in this current market. Would you agree with my statement, or am I talking baloney?
Absolutely, Kevin. What do you think, David? Do we want to give it away, though? We don't want to give it away.
No, I'm not saying giving it away, but I'm just making people realize what an asset that you already have.
Yes, there's no doubt, Kevin, that the asset is valuable and valuable to other people as well as to us, of course. We've made a value judgment that we've got the chance of being, we think, the lowest cost rare earth producer in the world, and that's such an opportunity that we've set the gold aside for the time being, because it's just too tempting. We aim at the big prize.
Yeah, I think the point I'm trying to make, and so people understand, investors who are sort of sitting on the fence or thinking about this one, is that, your company probably to 2 or 3 times the valuation that it is now is underwritten by the gold project that you already have. And I think that's an important thing for people to assess when they're thinking, is this a good investment? I agree with you. I think the rare earths is potentially, I don't know, there's no point throwing figures out there, but it's potentially going to create hundreds of millions of dollars of value, maybe even possibly per annum in terms of its potential. But these rare earth projects are rare in terms of their ability to actually happen. So there is obviously risk. That risk is getting lower. And as you said at the start, David, I think you think it's gone past that point now of a risk in terms of being viable in some way, shape or form. So yeah, no, it's very interesting listening to both of you. And I'll ask you both then for your final statements then. If somebody's thinking about investing in Cobra Resources, why should they? Do you want to go first, Rupert?
Sure. Look, I think, Kevin, our approach to a lot of this has been we want to define an economic pathway before we go and drill a sizable resource. Why is that? Well, if we look at, let's say, Metroic. They've produced a circa 500 million tonne resource. Their scoping study only represents 15% of that. So what we want to be able to do is have great confidence in our mining process being in situ recovery, and then great confidence in the flow sheet that we develop to support that. So when we go to drill out a resource, we can target the highest grade zones, which we've been able to semi-define through a reassay process. And we can basically now go and work to define a resource very cost effectively to match the scale of what we want to deliver in a scoping study. I think that's a pretty unique and very cost effective way in taking an approach to defining a project.
Yeah. And David?
Yeah, thanks, Phil. This is going to sound terribly geological, but it's my background. To me, the critical point was back in late January, and when we drilled those core holes, and we found that the mineralisation is actually in a porous and permeable zone. Yes, it has some clay in it, but you can get the lixiviant in, you can get the lixiviant out. And although the name is rare earths are not, in fact, that rare. But what is rare is to have them in a situation where you can recover them cheaply. And having them in porous zones like that, I don't think I quite cried, but I nearly did. So happy. So to me, what is happening now, these test results, is what you would expect. And I think we can expect more of the same.
Only geologists cry over rocks, is what I've heard.
You don't have to be mad, but it helps.
Only geologists cry over rocks. But yeah, it sounds like very positive. And I think your children and grandchildren could thank you very much for your investment in the future if all this comes to fruition. And because I think you are talking about a company that could be worth literally hundreds of millions, if not billions of US or Australian dollars for sure. And
I do agree. I think that's the most likely.
It's obviously you got to go through the process. That I suppose my very last question to you, Rupert, is who's going to buy these rare earths? How much in demand are they?
Yeah, and did you have any good meetings in Tokyo?
Do we really need them? Yeah, that's right. Because we were speaking on the train in Tokyo at one point. What?
Absolutely.
What is the economics of the rare earth world? Is it China's just pumping out enough for everybody, and therefore nobody else is bothering, or what's the situation?
Well, look, it's an interesting dynamic. China are really controlling the market, but they are recognising that there is environmental issues with how they mine some of their rare earths. So what I think our opportunity is, Kevin, is one, I truly believe we can be cost competitive with the producers of China. Why? Well, using in situ recovery, which is a massive advantage. So then that means that we're potentially a strategic source of heavy rare earths because a heavy rare earth grades are very good. And I showed you in those graphs earlier that they stack up very well against the South Americans. And we think that with environmental credentials, this will be a very low carbon credited source of rare earths that off-takers in Europe, and we spoke to a number of them in Japan, that are looking for secure long-term supplies of rare earth carbonates and other rare earth products, that this project will stand out. And I must say, Kevin, that resilient supply chains are built on low-cost production, and that's what we're aiming to do. Is we're aiming to really demonstrate a low production metric that can enable that resilience to these commodity cycles. And at present, it probably isn't that resilience across the board with advancing rare earth projects. So that's where we want to position ourselves, and that's what we want to bring to the market.
Very good. Well, on that note, we'll say David Clark and Rupert Verco of Cobra Resources, thanks very much for your time.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you, Phil. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, guys.
And to our second guest this week, we're joined by John Betteridge, investor and stock trader. Welcome, John.
Hi there. How you doing?
Yeah, very good. Thanks. How's life treating you?
Yeah, very good at the moment. Been an interesting time in the market. I certainly believe liquidity's returned. There's been some big movers these last few months. And yeah, I just got that feeling liquidity's returned, sentiment's returned. Yeah, I think we're in for a good year, good few years, in my opinion.
Sounds good. Yeah, it's about time. Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe something that not many people will know, and also how you got into trading, investing, and also what you look for in a trade or investment.
Well, I've been trading on and off for about 25 years. Did the usual, started off in mid caps, large caps. And over the last 8 years, I switched over to small caps, AM. And what I didn't realize was the wild swings, how volatile they can be. They're nothing like the mid caps. And to be fair, when I first started, I lost £26,000 in about 6 months. I tried to apply everything I knew about trading and investment, which I say more investment. So I was looking at companies on fundamentals and everything. Everything was going great, but I just didn't realize the amount of traders, the amount of movement there could be in a stock. I didn't know about the bulletin boards, about ramping. It was totally alien to me. So, yeah, first 6 months, I lost 26K. I remember it really well. I was listening to people on Twitter, looking at these stocks, thinking, yeah, this sounds great. Listening to CEOs. And yeah, big wake-up call. But what happened is I basically sold all my stocks and just sold off. And I started again. I came up with a plan of how to trade in small caps. And the big part for me was the sentiment and momentum in stocks, which I think a lot of people don't realize how important this is. Sentiment. Sometimes people look at a stock and say, it's great fundamentally, why is it not moving? Well, if if it's not a hot sector, people don't know about it, it's not going to move. So yeah, massive wake-up call. But over the last 8 years, I've done extremely well, especially in the pandemic. Nearly got caught out, But luckily, I sold all my stocks off, knowing that this is going to be a major thing. I called it right. And then as soon as the pandemic was in full swing, the market absolutely dropped by about 90% of some stocks. I absolutely piled in buying hospitality. I remember buying William Hill. I think it was 30p. Just, it was a phenomenal time for me in the markets, even though it was a pretty bad situation for the world. That's where I am at the moment. And I'm a very active trader. I'm up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I prepare myself at 7 o'clock, ready for 7 o'clock RNS. And then really I'm there all day on the screens looking for opportunities.
Yeah. So do you base the daily trades? Let's talk about from a trading rather than long-term investment perspective. Do you look at the RNSs? Because obviously we put out an RNS hot list every day where we analyze every RNS and say we think it's going to move, we think it's maybe that one's going to drop. Or, you can almost make a mindset of, is it going to move up? Is it going to move down? Is it going to remain unchanged? But do you look at that and say, okay, I'm going to try and maybe buy pre-market, which you can obviously do with some brokers, and be able to get a trade in before before the bell rings at 8 o'clock? Or are you more sort of sentiment driven, looking at maybe how geopolitical issues overnight may have changed the markets to look for specific commodities?
Yeah, all of those. Yeah, I mean, it's very, very difficult, I believe, to there's not many people can look at a stock at 7 o'clock and decide whether or not to jump into that stock. You've got to, there's only a few of us do it. You've got to remember, someone like me I have a great network of people around me. So straight away, 7 o'clock, I've got full-time traders messaging me. They're giving me, what they feel about the stock. So I'm a bit of an advantage straight away, but I'd say I'm more a positional trader. That's what I do. I will look for stocks that are unloved, nobody's interested in, and I will look to them take a position. I'll look at the news flow, I'll look at the catalysts, and I'll think, right, this is a time to buy. And I might have to sit in that stock for a good 4 to 6 weeks before that stock then starts to get sentiment. And that is my strategy, really. I often do it. I mean, no word of a lie, I've had at least 12 100% movers this year alone. And I've just called GPL, which was graph polymer. I called that on the Telegram groups about 2 weeks ago. Not many people listened, but it's done probably 150% over the last week. So that's really what I'm looking at. And again, I'll look at sectors. So helium sectors, that's been a great play. That's where the sentiment's been. So I've made some really good investments in Helium 1, bagged on that one, looking at X at the moment. So I mean, sectors, I certainly look at sectors and what I believe is going to be hot. I think green energy stocks, I've been buying them the last few weeks, and they've just started to move now. So that's what I basically do.
So John, great to have you on. What size of position do you normally go in at? So how are you judging how much money that you can actually put in? Because it's all well and good, and this is often the mistake that people make. It's all well and good getting into a trade, but you also need the volume to get out of the trade, because someone else has to buy your position. Otherwise, you haven't made that 100%, have you? So what size of position are we talking about? Are you talking about putting $5,000 in it? What, 10 grand, 100 grand, 200 grand? What? I mean, in these small caps, do you have a formula in terms of the size of the market cap, or how do you work it out?
Of course. I mean, I'll not look at anything illiquid, but if anything's really illiquid, then I might only put £2,000 or £3,000 in a stock like that. But if it's really, I look for liquid stocks. So let's have a look at Helium 1. I could put 50k in there, and I've got a very good chance of getting that cash back out. So when I look to position, I have to look at what the liquidity is like in those stocks. And so I mean, I can go from 5,000 usually. That's what I call a bit of a risk, and I'll go right up maybe £50,000 plus in a stock. But positioning, I think some people will have a look at me and think, what is John putting into these stocks? But it all depends on how liquid the stocks are.
So your size is purely on liquidity, not on necessarily the size of the stock. So for instance, if there was 200 million market cap, 50 grand's going to be neither here nor there in terms of liquidity, you would imagine. But is there also a size of a stock that you are willing to look at? So it's like 1 million to like 100 million, or where do you stop?
Look, I look at all stocks. If I see them, I look at any stock where I think I believe they'll be. I mean, I have conviction holds as well. So Fentra, everyone will know. through the Telegram groups. I've been there 4 years. I've got a sizable investment in that company. So again, I think that there's two different types of sort of like trades. I've got convictionals and I've also got a trading pot, which is quite large. And as I say, I just look to trade, but what I believe will be the movers. So now I'll be looking at Q4 movers. Most people looking at the here and now. I'm looking at stocks that I believe will move in Q4. So I'm looking to position now, and then when we get to the final quarter, I'll be expecting these stocks to move. I'll just be basing it on what I believe are, the near-term catalyst. Doesn't always work, because as we all well know, often its timelines are different, certainly don't stick to them. So that's basically what I'm doing. So I'm looking at Q4 stocks now, and I'm positioning now for them to move.
So this year, have you had any that you think, oh, wish I'd have done that one?
Yes, I've had a couple. I think I often get accused of not telling people about my losers, but I think on Telegram groups and on social media, people don't want to know if I've lost $1,000 or something on a stock. They often want to know about, which ones are going.
Did John lose 50 grand? Right? Where did you lose 50 grand?
So you don't always. I don't think people want to know about your losers, but I had DELT. I was about 16k up in that in profit, and I made a fatal error of not de-risking that stock. So I lost the entire profit on the announcement, especially with the government. I should have seen this coming. I didn't. So I lost 16k profit, and I think I sold out for about another £4,000 or £5,000 loss. So that was a 21k loss this year.
On the government news, there's that I'm pulling licenses.
Yeah. It was. But again, I shouldn't have listened to a couple of people. Everyone was reassuring me about this stock, but I made a fatal error in not de-risking the stock, and that's something a lot of traders need to understand, is that nothing's 100%. You've got to start to look to de-risk, and that's what I do very well. I often trade what I call the anticipation. So if something's going into a drill, I'll position very early. There's usually a decent rise before, and then I'll often not wait for news, or I'll leave a little bit in on news, and that strategy over the last 4 or 5 years worked really well for me. So yeah, I'd say I'm a positional trader. I look at fundamentals, but I don't always need to look at fundamentals as right. That's important. And I think that a lot of people don't understand what a sentiment and momentum trade is. So Alien One, I don't really need to know a lot about that company. They did a placing 0.5, I believe. I absolutely went heavy as soon as I saw the placement. Lots of people saying it's going to drop under placement, everything, the fundamentals are poor. But I knew, just on the last time they placed, exactly what happened to that stock. My theory is that's where the herd will go again. I called it 100% right. It's done, I think it's done what? I think it was nearly 200% up since I called that trade. And so again, that is just the pure, for me.
And that was momentum completely, no? Because basically, as you said, the herd is there already because it's got a huge following in a small cap. And ultimately, as you said, a lot of people were like, okay, I'm going in again now because I made good last time. So exactly. They all follow again. Now, the question is, if you say in heavy, so I'm expecting that you put in at least 50 grand, probably more. Yes. So how do you then get out 100 to 200 grand?
Well,
that's what you made.
I start to de-risk that stock as it moves up. So once it starts hitting the 0.8 regions, I'll look to de-risk them. Then at 1 pence and so on. So as I go up, I am de-risking that stock on any pullback. I had a target of around about 1 pence. But again, I always de-risk stocks. So if I put 50k in, it doesn't mean I'm going to make £50,000, because I'm leaving it all in for 100% gain. I'm de-risking all the way up. And as we often call slicing, scalping, that's what I do on majority of the trades.
So on a 50 grand, if it doubles, then maybe you're going to make 20 to 30,000 pounds, basically, is your hope.
Yes. So I went in slightly heavier than 50k on this one, actually. So.
I know for a few weeks that's good business. No, that's some people's salary. So that's a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, so I've had that one. I had CapEx. Again, I put this out on Telegram group, which I always do. I always tell people my positions, and CapEx has been an absolutely fantastic start. I think I bought nearly around about 2% of the stock. It was around the 0.8, 0.9 mark, and again, that's done nearly 300% over the last few weeks. So yeah, I mean, just on those stocks alone. And then I've had GPL, Graph Polymer. Again, I told everyone I was going into this stock.
Okay, so you told everybody, but why did you think GPL or Graph Polymer was going to move? What were the either fundamentals or the momentum behind it? Well, I thought this is going to work.
The fundamentals are a lot better. They've got a new management team in there. They've got patents pending. Now, last time it moved big, it moved big on a patent RNS, really. So, which was a bit odd to me. It wasn't massive for the company, but it's a very small market cap. So again, people did really well last time that moved. So it's on the radar, on the trading community radar now. Everyone did well. And then as soon as I saw the placement, I was straight back in again. And my fear would be that people would look to invest back into this company because it's done well before, so the herd would return. And, I've called it right again. They've gone straight back into it. And that's the theory, that the herd will go back into these companies where they've done well before.
Do you take placings, John, or did you tend to buy on the market rather than? I
take placings, but again, a lot of them I'd never consider. So you get people phoning you up and saying, do you want to take this placing? I have taken one, which is MATD.
Matad, yeah.
Yeah, Petro Matardi. You always know I'm a trader because they only know the ticker names. Yes, I've taken that one, and again, it's set up perfectly for me. I mean, the fundamentals are the best they've ever been. Yeah. So to me, this one,
they always rise on the, as you say, the anticipation of the drill, don't they? And because it's out in somewhere like Mongolia or somewhere like that. Yeah.
In Mongolia, they're going to go into production. There's near-term news flow. It's fully funded. Again, it's a retail favorite. It's done well before from placement. So, yeah, I've gone heavy here. I was up something like 30% up the other day. Great presentation and news flow. I'll be very surprised if this doesn't bag from 200% from 2 pence. I'll be very surprised. But as ever, always risk, delays, anything changes. There's always risk. And that's why I then start to de-risk the position, as stock moves up. But, yeah, that one, I'll be shocked if it doesn't do 100%.
So, John, is there a time to trade, and is there a time to say, the fundamentals of this company is this is for me for 5 years. I'm gonna make a lot more money if I hold this and just run with it.
Yes, I believe there is, but the market, I've changed my strategy a little bit. I've seen what the market was like the last couple of years, and people have just been booking profit every time there's any RNS. People just sell on news. There's no doubt about it. I recognized this was happening. So I just changed the strategy and I thought, right, I bought very little on the day because I knew there'll be a big sell-off. But do I think that we're coming into a bit of a bull market? Yes, I do. So I'll be looking for stocks with fantastic fundamentals and I'll look to start holding these stocks. I mean, I've got Prospects Energy. I've been holding that for about 3 or 4 years now. So that's conviction hold. It's solid, got cash flow, positive. It's got
What sort of price did you get in Prospect Energy at?
Oh, about 3 pence.
Okay, so you're in the money, basically.
Yes, I'm in the money.
You were when it hit 18, 19, 20p anyway.
Everyone was saying, I bet John sold. Well, yeah, I don't always disclose what I'm always doing. I'll leave it up to people to decide whether or not I took some off then.
I can see his face. He definitely sold at that point.
But I believe, it's a great.
And I don't blame him because I should have done.
It's a great stock and it's got some massive catalysts coming up. I'll be shocked if it's not double the price. But again, it's all on, any delays. That's the only issue with some of these companies. But I believe
if at Prospect Energy, you're talking about delays and gas price. Full stop.
Yeah, exactly.
End of story.
And that's it. So again, I'm looking at something like Arkham at the moment. Arkham, that one's down at 1.4 at the moment. It's
Arc Minerals you're talking about, yeah?
Yeah, Arc Minerals. Again, it's on its knees at the moment. But yeah, you look at it fundamentally, and for me, it's a good risk reward at the moment. It's just sentiment's down, really down. It's on its knees, but they've got some good catalysts coming up. So again, that might be one stock where, I'm probably going to look to hold medium term. I like the copper space anyway. So there is stocks that we'll look to hold long term.
So we've just had a guest, as you know, because I informed you of it, Cobra Resources in Australia with rare earths and a gold project. Zero momentum, let's be honest. Okay, yes. Or very little momentum. very tightly held, okay, because as big shareholders, sponsor party. So what's your thoughts in terms of the future for that stock? Only because it's been on the podcast. Let's see what you think.
Yeah, I've just had a look at it. As I always say, it's all about news flow with these small companies. And so I've been having a look at it. Rare earth mineral project all looks great. They've had some encouraging grades, which they've announced. I think they said 41% recovery rates. Right location, no doubt about it. And yeah, I mean, they're looking at a low capital mining process. So everything looks good to me. And it's one of those stocks I'm certainly going to have a look at. I haven't got any rare earth mineral plays, but I do believe, these types of projects, are certainly worth looking at. And it's funny because I was in Cobra about 4 years ago. I remember it up at 3p or something like that. And I bought it about, I think, 1.5p. So I know Cobra quite well. They've had a bit of a change in direction, a few new people coming in. And so, yeah, certainly a stock to look at. Again, tiny end cap. And it's one of those, if you can get sentiment, can get momentum, you can see a massive swing in a stock like this. But yeah, definitely on the radar. And funny enough, I've been looking at it this morning.
Yeah. Meteoric, which is another company that they mentioned on the podcast, has a £200 million Aussie market cap. And isn't as good in terms of resource and recovery as Cobra. So you go figure. Momentum has momentum. The other company has momentum. So yeah, I think it's a company that could do very well in terms of that, but let's see. So give us your, other than Prospect and Event, what else do you think for Q4 and beyond is a good bet?
I think any green energy stocks, that's what I've not really told many people. I don't always tell everyone what I'm buying, but that's what I've been buying the last 3 or 4 weeks. I knew a Labour government was going in, so it was always going to be. I think we could see some sentiment. So I think you've got IES, you've got Good, you've got ITM, SAE. These are all green. Any green energy stock, I think, is worth having a look at.
What about Powerhouse Energy? No.
Yeah, that one. I put that one down as well. So the green energy stocks, something I'd certainly look at. They have moved. I've seen them. They did this last week. We have seen movement in some of these, so it looks like they're going to get some sentiment. I think any helium play is definitely worth getting into. You got X,
Helix
the American
guys, David Minchin and Bo and all those guys. Yeah,
I picked that one up at, I think there was 19-20p's. I was picking them up to about 22p. So I've gone pretty heavy in that one. It's got 2 fully funded drills coming up, so I think it's going to be a massive Q3, Q4 there. And as I say, helium has been the right sector. It's been a hot sector this year. Anything with helium in, suddenly sees a massive jump. So certainly a stock I would be looking at. As I said, I've got Arc Minerals, I've got PXEN as a mover in Q4 as well. So they're the sort of stocks I'm looking at. Green energy stocks are positioned in about 4 or 5 now. And yeah, you should imagine we see some good momentum there.
I think if you can find a good onshore wind company, in the UK base, because obviously, as you mentioned, the Labour government seemed to be have removed that the legislation on that and said we want to encourage more onshore, because obviously the previous government had was de facto ban on it. So what do you make of that? Is there anything in that space or even in the solar space?
So yeah, I think I've got the company now. Is it EAAS? I believe they're another company that's got solar. Definitely another company. I think I took about £5,000 or £6,000, a small position in that company about 3 or 4 months ago. So again, another company that's probably worth looking at. But yeah, and I think anything green energy, I think we'll see a bit of sentiment and momentum in a lot of those stocks over the next 18 months. I feel so. Yeah.
Do you not see that all those green stocks need a lot more of the mining stocks to do well, to actually produce the assets that they're going to require, especially with the likes of wind. So copper, nickel, all of these things, they've got to happen. And it's almost like in order. I know that's not necessarily how the market functions, but that's the way it seems to me. We've missed the mining boom, if you like, that has to happen.
I just feel. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I even have a look at, I'm in some CAD and US listed stocks. I'm in one called Arizona Metals. It's a massive copper gold project. I mean, it's one of the best projects probably out there. There's just zero sentiment in that stock at the moment. But if you said to me what's going to return, I think there's going to be sentiment's going to return to some of these small cap mining companies. I mean, they're so undervalued. It's incredible, really. But as I always say, I've got to wait for that shift. You can position now and hope that sentiment returns. But anything with copper, and you got to feel it's a good position to have. So I've got a couple of copper plays. Again, I even look at CAD listed ones. There's some real value out there at the moment. So yeah, I do. I just think that there's just been no love whatsoever for these small cap mine. I mean, look at gold. Gold, pushing over 2.4 at the moment, but you've not really seen these small cap gold companies move much. It's been incredible, really. There's just a massive disconnect at the moment.
You've had a disaster this week, even with Conroy Gold. Like, it's valued at like £2 million and potentially has 20-30 million ounces of gold in Ireland. It's absolutely bizarre, but zero sentiment, like zero.
Well, sentiment came in and it did 75% one day and then dropped back.
Well, that's true. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those stocks that I think if it gets any sentiment, could do hundreds of percent in a matter of a few weeks. Unbelievable, Conroy Gold. And it's there. Like, we visited the sites twice. The assets are there. The gold is there. Visible gold in the ground, 123 grams per ton. And yes, in a normal market, and you've been in the market 25 years, do you class the last 2 years as normal? Because I don't personally.
No, not normal at all. I mean, I've never seen markets so bad. I don't know, has crypto taken a little bit away from small caps? Probably, no doubt about that one. But yeah, I'm only just starting to see the markets turn. But the last 2 years have been, extremely difficult markets. I mean, some of these stocks are so undervalued at the moment. It's mind blowing, really.
Yeah, I mean, there are stocks that are definitely 2, 3, 4, 5 times undervalued, and I suppose your job as a trader now is to try and find those in advance, because you're not really trading that much on the day, or are you? Are you in and out in a day with a lot of trades?
Only on a few stocks when I see something if I can scalp for 10 or 15%, but mainly a trader. So I will look at fundamentals, I'll look at the board of directors, I'll look at the catalyst going forward, and I'll position now. So that's what I try to do. So again, I'm just looking at stocks now. I'm looking at stocks to move in Q4. I look for any sector that I believe will get sentiment. Obviously, the helium ones could add loads of sentiment. But then I think it's all on copper. Like, if copper prices start going up, which we all believe they will, then we'll start to see the sentiment to return into some of these small caps. In lithium, I remember, I think it was me and Charles Archer going on about lithium in 2019 and 20. And nobody was interested in 2019 in lithium. It was incredible. And I was thinking, have I got this wrong? Have I called it wrong? We all know lithium absolutely went on a tear. And I think that could happen with copper as well and other metals. So, yeah, I think that certainly worth looking at a few of these small cap mining companies.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you about our best 2 performance stocks this year, just of interest. So the first one is Incanthera, and I have mentioned it to you, I think, on the bulletin boards, and up in excess of 350% so far this year, and I believe only just begun. So have you got any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I read the RNS. It came out a couple of days ago, and yeah, I mean, straight away when I was looking at it, I was thinking, right, this is a real company. I did actually put on the Telegram group, have a look. I think there's something in this one, and it's certainly one I've been looking into. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a great call on that one.
Yeah, and I think it's only just begun. It's one of those that was so lowly valued that the fact that it's done 300% is like only the beginning in my view. Really, the revenues that this thing could produce really pretty damn fast. It could easily be, in my view, £1 billion company within sort of 1 to 3 years, depending on how quickly all the revenues increase. But even based on just what they've got in revenues now, it's way undervalued. But we know that's the way the market's working at the moment. So that was the first one. And then the second one is a tungsten play in the US, which is was Golden Metal Resources, now Guardian Metal Resources. What's your thoughts on that one?
I don't know that stock well, if I'm honest with you. I mean, as I say, I think there's a few people been in that one. I mean, it's done quite well, I believe.
Yeah, it's going again. It's up there on the start of the year around 200% or more now, probably nearly 300%.
Yeah, so it's one of those that probably got away. I looked at it. There's quite a few people on X, on Twitter, calling that one out. I believe Charles Archer was in that one as well. But again, it's one of those. It moves 100%. You think, oh, it's moved 100%, but as I say, looking at it, it's probably just going to go on and on and on. I mean, some people calling it, it's going to the pound next year or this year, and it probably will. Looking at it, but again, once it's gone, I often don't look at stocks.
Don't FOMO into it. Yeah.
Well, once they've gone 200-300% up, I'm like, I've missed the boat. But there's always another one. So, but yeah.
No, we could probably. You could go on and talk about some other stocks that are so lowly valued. I mean, is there anything that you're just thinking that's just ridiculous in terms of its valuation? I can name you one, but I understand why it's so lowly valued because of all the things you've had. But is there anything on your mind that you're thinking, how can that be worth like £1 million or £500,000 or whatever it happens to be?
Nothing in particular. I just think that some of the stocks are just totally undervalued at the moment. I mean, there's some really good plays out there. I just think that we're going to see a bit of a bull market coming in the small cap space. Just on the last few months alone, there's been a bit of a re-rating going on the last couple of weeks, I'd say, in certain stocks. But yeah, all I'm going to do is look for stocks that I think have got great catalyst, great potential, and I'm going to position early. And I think that's the great thing about having, if you've got liquidity, you can go into a stock, put some cash in and just leave it there, which is great, and just wait for it to catch some sentiment, news, and everything else. And that's what I think I'll be doing.
Yeah, I've got one for you to have a look at based on the fact that you were saying you thought that the whole energy transition and the green side of things is going to work. And that is MAST Energy Developments, which everybody hates it.
I had a bag on that one, so I'm happy enough.
Okay. Everybody hates it. Got a market valuation of £600,000. So effectively, you can buy a TR1 for like 15 or 18 grand of money. It has Riverfort involved at asset level. It has everything that the UK needs, which is the energy sort of transition is required to produce this gas so that we don't ever run out of electricity. And it now has something that is now going to develop market cap, as I say, £600,000.
Yeah, and the net asset value on that PineBridge is 4 million.
Net asset value of 4 million. Is it worth more than 600,000? This is the question, right?
Well, I'm gonna answer that question. I think yes. I mean, I know MAST pretty well. I've been in and out. Again, it's one of those stocks where a lot of PIs are skeptical about it. But you're right. I think the current market cap, I believe, is a real opportunity in MAST. Was one I was going to actually mention in the next few weeks on the Telegram forums. And yeah, I just believe that there's some value there at 600k. I think it's in a far better place than what it ever has been. I'll be shocked if we don't see a move there. It's one of those, again, that should probably be interesting to a lot of traders because it's a very low end cap. People like these small caps.
Yeah. I mean, but my view is it's nothing spectacular, but that probably should be worth a couple of £1 million, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's going to be worth £200 million, though potentially 5 years from now, if they actually get the cash to do the things they want to do, that it has that chance. But
I think they're delivering on what they said, and I think that's what's important. I think in the past, they've probably let themselves down a little bit with what's gone on, and obviously the stock's fallen massively. But to be fair to them, they have delivered on what they said they was going to do, and I always think that's important. I tend to put a bit of cash in these stocks. I wait for them to deliver on what they say, and when they do, I add again. It's really important.
The problem is they wanted to build this 300 megawatt asset or portfolio of assets, and they've built up to whatever it is 9 or 30 or whatever if they can get the 3 gem backers online at PineBridge. So there's been a big expectation for this 300 million figure, and it's not, they've not delivered. And who's to say that they won't deliver that in the future as they add more and more of the, the sites, bring them online. but the market is saying, well, they've not done that magical number, and that's the problem with putting these almost like self-made, targets onto stocks from the listing point. That you know what I mean? They've been blighted with delays, with a lot of maintenance on the Genbacker units, which has obviously caused the drop in share price. Sentiment shot.
Yeah, sentiment's shot in it at the moment. As we all know, it can soon change with some decent updates. So again, certainly one to watch. You always got to look at the risk reward. Current share price. I mean, to me, it's probably a decent shout there.
Yeah, and I mean, the scenario is Riverfort in at asset level. So they've got no shares. They're not going to be selling it down. And, Riverfort don't go into things unless they make money, pretty much. If we're honest. If they don't know almost there's a certainty to make money, then they almost don't do it. So the scenario is they're in and basically they're going to make money. And if they make money, we'll make money. So it's like, for me, this is very, very good. As a trader, good risk reward, very good risk reward, and such a small cap. So that's an interesting one to keep in mind. We also had a big mover in the last few months with Kendrick Resources. Kendrick Resources went from 0.3, ridiculous valuation for the assets that it had, and has moved up to a penny, between penny and 1.15p. Still a long way to go, but that went from a market cap of 600,000 or 700,000 to 2.2 million pounds. So if you were in that, it's done exceptionally well over the last month. Again, there are many, many opportunities out there, and that's the interesting thing. But I'm wondering, when is this going to change that, yes, all boats will be floated, because the valuations just don't make any sense?
You need a few, don't you, John? You need like that. You mentioned it before, like during the COVID days, you had some stocks that were doing 800, 900, even 10 bagging in a day. And you need those ones to start snowballing, and then people take profits from one into the other, and then you get this snowball effect, right?
Yeah, and we probably had that in the last few weeks. I mean, you've got CapEx, that's done 300%. You've got Helium One. I mean, massive volume in that company. Again, that's just done 200%. You've got Graph Polymer. Again, that one's just done 150%. So we're seeing some of these moves. And it's all about then, is that money then to get recycled into other opportunities? So there's a few green shoots, I believe, at the moment, and I'm expecting some good times over the next couple of years, really, in markets. I mean, from a macro point of view, interest rates coming down. You can just see that if anything, there's going to be a turn in the market, and I'm certainly going to be positioned to do well. Anyone who's done well in the bear markets the last couple of years is going to do exceptionally well when these markets turn. And they always turn, as we all know. They always turn. And I'm a big believer that these markets are just about ready.
Indeed. And John, buy some Incantera.
Look, that was a great shout. I mean, it's difficult. When you're a trader, I am looking at multiple stocks. I mean, I've got a great setup. I've got an IT friend that's come up. He sets up alerts. So I'm alerted when I should be buying a stock, when news flow is going to start. So it's really difficult when you're a trader is to look at every single stock.
Absolutely.
I have a wide knowledge of the small cap market. And I said, I've got a great setup in terms of alerts of when I should be buying the stock. I think Chariot came up the other day, alerting me saying, you should be buying the stock now. So, and that's what I've been working on. So it's a great system I've got at the moment. That company, it's a shame I didn't look at it, a few months ago. Because, I look at it now, I was like, that's got everything there. It's one I would have probably certainly taken a starter position in. But as I said, you can't be in them all.
You can't be in them all, but in terms of Incantera, it's a 10, 20, 30 bagger possibility, even now, in my view. And yes, I'm like Mr. pushing it, but I really do think it's got such blue sky
potential, but then it's got all the risks associated with delays, problems. You can't have that. You know what I mean? That's my take on it now. Is it has the possibility and the revenues, and obviously the latest announcement, as John alluded to, where they've upped the order again up to the 350.
Yeah.
The revenues and profits look potentially amazing, but it's all down to the rollout now in September.
Yeah, I mean, look at it. It's got great fundamentals. That's all I'd say about that stock. And it was interesting. I I think I posted it out on the Telegram groups. Again, it's usually the same. Not too much interest from a few people, not too many people inquiring about it or DMing me and saying, what do you think, John, about this stock? But this is a problem with some of the investors, is just miss opportunities. Yeah. They're just looking at the here and now stocks. So people will be looking at the stocks that have moved 100, 200%. I think what people got to remember is that when these stocks move this, it's usually I'm selling out these stocks, when they've made these massive moves. And I'm looking at stocks that, are rock bottom and value. And I think that's what people have got to understand. If you're a trader, you've got to have a plan, you've got to have a strategy. And, you just feel at the moment in some of these Telegram groups, I just think that investors need to, start thinking about looking at alternatives rather than the normal retail favorites, like Ealing One. And these are stocks that always are on the bulletin boards. It's the
Premier African Minerals.
Yeah, it's just the same stocks over and over again.
And the big problem is people go in heavy on them as like a one stock wonder, and then they wonder why they've lost the money when it comes crack. You know what I mean? Like, unfortunately, you see things like Horizonte Minerals. That was another favourite, and that got rugged and delisted. You know what I mean? There's some horror stories.
Yeah, COPL. I think COPL was the one. I mean, everyone knows I was negative on that stock, but some people put their life savings into these stocks. Some horror stories. They lost. One person DM'd me to say lost his deposit on a house. I was, it's terrible to hear these stories. But as I said to most people, I offer a lot of advice to a lot of new people. Start off small. Don't go betting the house on any stock because and I always tell everyone, look at the risk first. Often what people do is they'll see a stock, they'll say to themselves, how much can I make on this stock? Whereas I will look at it and think, what can I lose? What is the risk? What could go wrong with this stock? And they're the first things I look at before I even think about, going into these small caps. They are high risk. You could lose everything, but as we all know, you can do 300 or 400% as well. But yeah, I mean, nobody takes the risk into consideration when they put the tax and money in. I mean, to put £100,000 in COPL, I mean, it was incredible that someone had actually done that. And I know for a fact this person had that amount of money in that one. So yeah, it's incredible.
Okay, well, on more pressing issues, John, what are your predictions for the England game, the final this evening?
I'm going to say it's going to go to extra time and penalties, and England to win in penalties. There we go.
Yeah.
Come on, England.
Come on,
and
England.
John, as this is your first time on the Sunday roast, what is the preferred Sunday roast in the Betteridge household?
Sunday roast. Well, we're very traditional. There's nothing. I mean, I often cook as well. What people don't know about me is that I was in my student days. I was a chef working in some very, very good restaurants part time. So I'm pretty handy in the kitchen. I often do a great roast, a river beef with all the trimmings, and that's one of the favourites in our house.
And lashings of gravy?
Oh yes, lashings of gravy, proper
Yorkshire
gravy.
pudding.
Bistone. There's no bistone near it. Because I'm from Yorkshire, and there's always a nice freshly made Yorkshire pudding as well. So yeah, they get a treat in our house when I'm cooking.
Very good.
Yeah,
very good. Well, listen, John, thanks for your time. I think it'd be really great if we can catch up every 2 or 3 months and just give us your thoughts on what's been going on in your part of the world and how you've been doing. And thanks for your time.
Yeah, thanks for your time, John.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. See you later.
So let's have a look at some of the movers and shakers of the week. The best mover of the week was Goldstone Resources. It's up some 144% with a market cap of 10 million. They provided an operational update for its Homes gold project in southwestern Ghana. Key highlights include continuous operations with an average of 5,400 tonnes of ore mined and stacked per month, leading to 1,350 troy ounces of gold produced so far in 2024. Gold recovery has increased to 68% with plans to reach 1,000 ounces per month within 6 months. Exploration activities aim to expand the current 602,000 ounce gold resource. The CEO, Emma Priestley, emphasised the company's focus on increasing production and shareholder value following processing plant upgrades. So, yeah, interesting. Market cap of 10 million and potential to increase the production there to reach 1,000 ounces per month within 6 months. Just how do you put a value on that, Kev?
Well, 1,000 ounces a month, so it's 12,000 ounces a year. It's not a huge production, but it depends on the all-in sustaining cost, I suppose, how much it's costing them to actually do that. As they do that, as they move up, then that's obviously going to be more beneficial, as in there'll be economies of scale. If they're getting a full 2,400, it's 28, 29 million of revenue. But that depends on the all-in sustaining costs.
I guess it's all down to the all-in sustaining cost. But I think around 1,000 ounces per month, even if you took, $100 an ounce, then you're looking at £1 million of profit per month there. So I'm not sure it justifies that such low market cap.
Yeah, I think, yes, you're looking at a company with £12 million worth of profit a year, possibly, going forward. So, yeah, 10 million market cap still seems extremely cheap, depending on, obviously, then the length of the mine life, etc. Yeah, and as I say, the all-in sustaining costs is the important factor. But yeah, with price of gold, yeah, it seems very good value. Not surprising it's gone up 140%.
And we had Sovereign Metals had a good RNS. They announced commencing trading on the OTCQ market. They announced trading on the OTCQX market. And Sapan caught up with Charles in the week, and we put out a good midweek takeaway. So any listeners who are interested in Sovereign Metals, we urge you to go and listen to that podcast. Then we saw an RNS, two RNSs actually, from Guardian Metal Resources. Firstly, there was the Pilot Mountain Garnet update, and then on Thursday, a nice RNS relating to tungsten. The US Senate Committee on Armed Services published a report accompanying the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2025, highlighting the criticality of tungsten and antimony to the defence industrial base. The report underscores the need for a diversified domestic supply chain for these materials, emphasising concerns over reliance on China and Russia. Oliver Friesen, CEO of Guardian Metals, expressed confidence in Pilot Mountain's potential role in the US tungsten supply chain, affirming the company's commitment to its accelerated development and forthcoming updates on key work areas. Just how significant do you think that RNS was on Thursday relating to the US Senate Committee on Armed Services publishing a report? Give us your thoughts on it, Kev.
Yeah, it's actually very important. Oliver actually sent it to me before he put it out on the RNS Reach, just to read it, to see what the significance of it was. But he was like, wow, there's a lot of significance behind what they're actually saying. So listen, we're at market cap now with GMET of about £30 million. Still no confirmation of the grant. If the grant comes in and we have all of these potential things that are going to happen at Pilot and Garfield, then, we are genuinely only at the start of the story again. It's only just beginning. As we were talking then with John, it's almost like some of these stocks that are 200-300%, we think I missed the boat. Well, no, they're probably just at real values now, based on what's going to happen in the future. I mean, I was having a discussion with Charles, I think, on one of the groups this week, and he was saying it could be £1 by the end of the year and said, into next year. And I was sort of saying to him, well, if all of those things happen and the grant happens and this metal is so required in the US, then I think someone's going to come in and buy even just that part of Guardian Metal Resources. Yeah, $200 to $300 million US.
Yeah, so another one was Incantera. I know you've waxed lyrical about them this podcast. They obviously had the confirmation of a second production order of 250,000 units for its Skin Plus Cell luxury skincare brand with Marionord AG, part of the Watsons Group. This follows a previous order increase from 50,000 to 100,000 units, anticipated to generate revenues of approximately £4 million. The total orders now exceed 350,000 units, supporting projected revenues over 10 million for the financial year ending 31st of March 2025 and aiming for profitability. The first 100,000 order is in production with Freeka, set for a September launch in 60 high-traffic Marionord stores in Switzerland and Austria. The second order, also managed by Freeka, is scheduled for delivery this financial year to meet European and planned Asian rollout demands. Incantera retains global licensing rights outside Marionord and Watsons exclusive regions. Chairman Tim McCarthy expressed confidence in the launch, highlighting the robust infrastructure and collaborative efforts driving the Skin Plus Cell rollout.
Well, I'm not going to say any more because I've been Mr. Rampy of it all through this podcast. So I think everybody knows my thoughts already. So no point in sharing them again. But
You're off to something in London, which is quite interesting, I think, from an Aquis point of view, and it so happens that Incanthera will be there. So do you want to explain what you're going to?
Yeah, Kev, as you had just alluded to, there's an event on. It's called the Pub Test, and it's co-hosted by the Aquis Exchange and Investor Hub. The event will be held. It's on Wednesday, the 17th of July, so this coming Wednesday at Samuel Pepys, Stew Lane, London. Starts at 6 p.m. And CEOs will engage in a fireside chat, offering private investors a chance to ask questions and network. And obviously, they all look forward to meeting and engaging with shareholders, potential investors and stakeholders to share their vision. Networking will obviously continue over drinks and a buffet. In terms of companies that are going to be presenting there, you've got Ananda Developments, who are focused on developing regular approved CBD-based medicines for chronic inflammatory pain. They're going to participate. You'll be able to meet Melissa Sturgis, CEO of Ananda, and obviously we've talked to her in the past, and we met her recently in the city, and she's a very, very interesting CEO to talk to, very enthusiastic. So if you're interested in that one, obviously go along, say hi to Melissa. You've got EDX Medical Group. EDX is the ticker. Develops innovative digital diagnostic products and services supporting personalized treatments for cancer, heart disease, and infectious diseases. So that you'll be able to go and meet Michael Hudson, CEO of EDX Medical Group. You've obviously got Incanthera there, Tim McCarthy, chairman. Go and say hi to Tim. I'm pretty sure Suzanne Brox will be there too. And then you've got Rent Guarantor. RGG is the ticker, a provider of rent guarantee services to prospective tenants across the socio-economic spectrum wishing to rent property in the UK private rental sector. So go and say hi to Paul Foy, CEO of Rent Guarantor. We'll put a link in the description. You can click through and register for tickets because it is a ticketed event, but obviously a free to attend, but you must have a ticket to attend that. So one that we're looking forward to. Has there been anything else this week? Yeah, there has actually. There's Ethereum. We missed this one, didn't we? But it's well worth covering. They had a great RNS in the week. And obviously we visited the Rwandan assets, and they announced that the subsidiary East Inco Limited has secured a metal concentrate offtake agreement with a major international trading house, boosting revenue potential from Rwandan artisanal and small-scale mining. Additionally, Ethereum has secured a US $1 million trade finance debt facility with a 14.4% annual interest rate to support trading operations, providing essential working capital. This facility includes an option for the investor to convert into Ethereum equity. Charles Bray, chair of Ethereum, highlighted these milestones as pivotal for scaling operations and driving revenue growth, supporting exploration efforts in Rwanda, Morocco, and Botswana. So a very exciting one there.
Yeah, and I'm interviewing Charles probably Monday or Tuesday, so look out for that. That one's going to come out. And yeah, I think they're very positive. There's going to be big news flow, I think, in the next few weeks, literally. I think it's going to be busy. So after that, on with Rio and also the stuff that's happening in Morocco. Watch the space in terms of that one. I think it's got a lot of potential.
So all eyes on England now, Kev. Give me your prediction for the England-Spain game this evening.
England are going to win 2-1 in normal time.
Wow, so you're going for 2-1. Yeah, I can't say I disagree on that. I think that it's painful enough watching England, isn't it? At the times, I don't think you're going to handle going to penalties. It's just so painful to watch and nerve-wracking. But I think it's more about, I'd love to see them do it in normal time, not go into pens like they did against Italy in the 2021 finals. But yeah, come on England. I think this is our best chance we've had yet of doing it.
Yeah, well, let's just hope. I mean, I'm sure the Spanish are hoping the same thing. So any Spanish supporters out there, or anybody but England out there, ABEs, there'll be lots of Spanish flags flying around the place, I'm sure. But I think it'd be great for the UK if we win. It'd be great for England. You know, it will be a feel-good factor, you know.
And yeah, really, really hoping that we can talk about it next week on the show. Okay, on that note, we'll go and get ready for the football. And I want to say to all of you, thanks for listening. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe, hit the bell icon for any future notifications of any further episodes.
This podcast was brought to you by Roast PR Limited. If you would like to appear on a future episode of The Sunday Roast, please email admin@thesundayroast.net.